Hey OutSystems developers, in this video we're going to explore how OutSystems Developer Cloud leverages Model Context Protocol servers to extend AI agents across the enterprise. Leveraging an MCP server, we can standardize how autonomous agents securely access real-time data, execute server actions, and enforce enterprise governance. Let's start with the standard definition for the Model Context Protocol. MCP is an open source standard that connects AI applications to external systems, including data sources, tools, and workflows. It enables models like Claude and ChatGPT to access relevant information and perform real-world tasks on users' behalf. Ultimately, MCP simplifies integration for developers while providing end users with more capable context-aware AI tools. While the standard frontier models are powerful, they fundamentally lack direct access to live enterprise databases and protected business capabilities without implementing some type of custom integration. MCP solves this fragmentation by defining a universal open protocol for tool specification, input validation, and execution. In ODC, these external MCP capabilities are automatically imported as strongly typed server actions, eliminating friction while giving developers a reusable single point of maintenance. The end-to-end developer experience bridges our enterprise context graph speed with sophisticated AI capability through a simple four-step process. First, platform administrators configure the MCP server connection and authentication in the ODC portal. Next, ODC automatically parses and validates the tool schemas, importing them as standard ODC server actions. And finally, developers simply add these actions as app dependencies in ODC Studio and plug them directly into the call agent element for execution. In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how you can utilize an MCP with the OutSystems platform. And as always, I'm going to keep it super simple so you can follow along. Okay, first things first, if we're going to leverage an MCP, we need to find one. So you can navigate over to openmcp.org and find a number of different MCP servers that you can test against. Probably one of the easiest ones to work with that I found is the Open Weather MCP, and you can see here's the JSON for that. Just keep in mind, transport is streamable HTTP, and we're going to need to go ahead and copy this URL to the clipboard. Once you have the information for your MCP, the next step is super simple. You're going to log into the ODC portal and then navigate down to the connections section. Here's where you're going to create a connection. We'll go ahead and scroll down and find the MCP server option. Click confirm, and then that's going to open up the window where we can begin to add the information that we need. So I'm going to give this one a name. We'll call it Demo Weather MCP. And then we can also give it a short description if you'd like to do that. You can add that in the next field. And then the important part is, of course, going to be the URL. So we will add the URL here. And just a moment ago, remember, I mentioned to keep in mind, this will be streamable HTTP for the transport type. And for this MCP, there is no authentication necessary. So you can choose that option. Everything else should work click and step. I'm going to go ahead and test this out and see if everything works. Whenever you click the test connection button, it should respond with either a green connection message or it will let you know if it was unable to connect. So at that point, we'll go ahead and click the save button and your MCP server is ready to use in OutSystems. Okay, for the next step, we will jump into ODC Studio and create a new agent. And so I'll go ahead and browse up to the desktop. I'll find a nice icon for this agent. We're going to call this agent the MCP Weather Agent. And then we can also give it a description if you'd like to. Once you've gotten that complete, click Continue. We'll need to choose a model. So I'm going to choose Claude Sonnet 4 for this agent. And then once we have the agent up and running, we can go ahead and add, with the dependencies window, a connection to that MCP server. So here's where I'll type in MCP very quick and find the server actions or the service actions that I need to work with. So I'll select both in this case, click Add, and then here in the flow, I'll need to double click on the main node and then find the AI model. Once I get to the AI model, I simply choose the add action, and I can find that weather MCP very, very quickly. So here you can see the service actions. I can select them, and as soon as we select them, you can see the different descriptions, and the actions have input parameters with values generated by the AI model. Now, you can change them if necessary, and also you want to ensure that the descriptions are very clear, since the AI model will read them as context. So once I check that everything looks satisfactory, I'll go ahead and click the publish button. We will publish it up to the server, and then if we'd like to, we can very, very quickly test this with a test harness, or we can just go ahead and build an application and utilize this agent in the application. So for this demo, we're going to skip testing in the harness and go ahead and create a new web application in ODC Studio. So I will give it a quick name, MCP Server Demo. Sounds good. I'll choose an icon, go ahead and give it a description, and then click the Create App button. In the next step, we should see the scaffolding for our application, and we can go ahead and start to work on the CSS, the color, the screens. But before we do that, I'm going to ease up to the dependencies window and do a quick search for my weather agent. So let me find that real quick. And once I find that, I can go ahead and bring in the service action that I'm going to need to use in this application. You can see it here with the inputs and the outputs. For the next step, I'm going to go ahead and build out the screen. We will give this screen a name. I think I'll call it maybe Agent Demo Screen. Go ahead and create that screen, and then let's do some work on the screen real quick just to change the background color. So I do have hexadecimal value of the blue color that I'm going to add to the background so that it blends in nicely. And then we can go ahead and continue to work. Now, what the goal is to have a drop-down menu with a number of different cities. I can choose a city, and it's going to leverage the MCP to give me the current weather in each city. But I'm going to need some locations to do that, so what I'll do is use the dependencies window to bring in some data from another application. You can see I have a list of cities. They do have a longitude and latitude value attached to them. So I can bring those in. If you do not have that, you can create that quickly in a spreadsheet and then just simply import it into the ODC Studio and publish it to the database. Okay, now that I have the main screen set up and I have the data that I'd like to work with, I'm going to leverage in IDE Mentor to help me build this screen out further. So I do have a prompt that I have already created, and I'm going to prompt it to create 5 different variables that I'm going to need for this application screen. So very quickly, Mentor will help me build that out. I can take a look and see what the changes look like, and then I can also go back to the interface layer, expand the screen, and sure enough, I can see 5 different variables: latitude, longitude, the response text, and all the variables that I need to make this screen work. So the next step, what I'd like to do is ask Mentor to create a new drop-down field that has all of the different cities from the data listed in the drop-down. So once again, the idea is that the user should be able to pull a city from the drop-down menu. Then they will be able to click a button. It's going to run the action, and the action will return the local weather for each city. So let me go ahead and take a look at the changes there. Everything looks good. I'm going to close out Mentor, and then we'll take a look and see if this works. But before we do that, we're going to import a few images that will appear on the screen with the return of the weather. So let me browse on over to the images section. I'm going to import an image for each one of the potential weather conditions, and you can see them here. It could be cloudy, foggy, could be rainy. Now that I have all of those in the images folder, I can work with those. One last thing before I test, I'm going to select the screen and just go ahead and set the authentication to everyone, so that way I don't have to log in whenever I preview this. We'll publish the application just to see what we have so far. At this point, we should be able to open it in the browser, and then we can test out the drop down to see if the values are there. So sure enough, we have all of the values for each one of the cities. Just to see how this looks on a mobile device, I'm going to test in an emulator, and we'll see that everything looks good. Okay, now I'm going to continue to use Mentor to do the heavy lifting for me. And in this step, I have a pretty lengthy prompt. And so I'm going to go ahead and add this prompt to Mentor. Now, what this is going to do is request that Mentor continue to build out the screen for me. And what I'd like is a button as well as some text on the screen from the return, and then an associated icon. Now, this icon, once again, should map to the weather condition for each city that you can choose in the drop down. So we'll go ahead and let Mentor get to work on this. Now, this may take a few seconds, even a couple of minutes, but it looks like Mentor's getting the job done pretty quick. If I go ahead and scroll down and take a look, I'll notice there's 3 changes that have been made to the screen. It added an action, and on the UI elements, we can see it definitely added the Get Weather button, and I can see text and image below that button. So let's go ahead and publish it with the one-click publish button. We can now preview this in the browser, and then I can go ahead and ask the agent what the weather is in Atlanta. It will send back some information. Looks like it's sunny. And if I switch over to Miami, I can see that it is a little bit cloudy and the temperature is 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's go behind the scenes and look at the action flow that Mentor built for us. I can see the different server actions that we utilize from the weather MCP, and I can also inspect to see what parameters that we're passing in, latitude, longitude, and then also the app ID, and then it built out all of the assignments. So lots of work that Mentor took off of my plate here. Hopefully this demo has been helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.